Hey, what's going on, everybody? Let's learn how to read user input today.
I welcome your input.
All right, let's jump right into user input. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click my Java folder, and I'm going to open it with Visual Studio Code. And now that I'm in here, let's go ahead and make a new file. We're going to call this input.java. Inside this file, we're going to make a class called input. And inside our input class, we're going to make a main method. So go ahead and say it with me. Public static void main string array args, and let's get into it. So the very first thing that we're actually going to want to do is come above line 1, and we're going to put an import here, and this import is going to help us read the user's input. So this is going to be Java util scanner, and the scanner object is going to help us read the user's input. So let's go ahead and make our scanner object now. We're going to say scanner input equals new scanner. And then we're going to take an argument here. It's going to say system.in. And that might look a little familiar to you. And let me show you why. So if we were to do a print statement, we would do system.out.println. And then we could say something like enter your name. Just like that. And what we could do now that we've entered our prompt is actually take the user's input. And you might be asking yourself, well, how? So that's a fair question. This input object is going to allow us to read the next thing the user types. In this instance here, I can have the user enter their name. So I could say something like string name is equal to input.nextLine. Now that's not the only way that we can read an input from the user, and I'm going to show you a couple others as well. But let's just start with this. So if I have that and I have the user's name, let's go ahead and print the name back for the person so they can see what they entered. I can say system.out.println and say something like your name is with a colon, and then we'll put a little plus sign outside the parentheses and then just say name. Okay, so this is a pretty simple example. Let's go ahead and open our terminal, and we're going to change directories to our desktop and our Java folder. Oops, it would help if I spelled desktop correctly. And then we're going to javac input.java. It compiled successfully, so now let's say Java input. Let's see what happens. It says enter your name. I'm going to go ahead and put my name, Dino. Whoops, let's go ahead and do it correctly. And then it says, your name is Dino. So that is actually pretty much the lecture. And it's got to roll! But let's take it a couple of steps further, because that is kind of boring just by itself. So you can see taking user input is actually pretty simple. But there's a couple other things here that we could do as well. So instead of just taking the user's name, we could do a couple other things too. So let's make a couple other variables up here. We're going to go ahead and do string name. We're going to say int age, and then Boolean is male. Just as a couple different examples of some things that we can do. Let's get rid of this string name that we have here. And we're going to go ahead now and put name equals input dot next line, just like what we had before. Technically we didn't have to erase that, but that's okay. Let's get rid of this system.out.print here, and let me show you the next thing that we can do. So just as you see up here how we have int age, we can actually do something called nextInt, which will take an integer value. So if I said something like system.out.println, what is your age, and then put a little semicolon, we could say age equals input.nextInt, and that's going to get the next integer value from the user. So let's go ahead and do one little copy paste here now. And then if I come down here, and if I said here, are you a male? And then we could just do something like true or false to clue the user in that we're looking for a Boolean value. Then we could do something like this, is male equals input dot next boolean. One last thing that we could probably do just to print it out, just to see what we have. Let's go now and print all of our values that we collected. So I'm going to copy this up here real quick, and then we're going to do a couple print statements. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to say over here, your name is, and then we're going to put plus name. Then we're going to say your age is plus age. And then we'll do our Boolean value here is male. So let's save this now, compile and run and see what happens. So we're going to compile. It compiled successfully, and let's run. And then you can see, enter your name. We'll say Dino, age 543. And then, are you a male, true or false? I'll say true. And then you can see that it was able to successfully print out everything that I entered. It says your name is Dino, your age is 543, and you are a male, true. So that's a couple of different ways that you can read it in, but there's so many others. For example, instead of next Boolean, you could do something like next float for a floating point number, or you could do something like next double for a double. There's just a bunch of them, so you could definitely go check this out by looking up Scanner online. But that's the basics of it. But this was just a really quick example of how you do inputs, so I'm going to go now and kick it back to Dino in the future. That concludes this video today on reading user input. I hope you got something out of it. Believe it or not, we're actually getting towards the end of the beginning level lectures. We're going to have to step this up and start calling this intermediate soon. There's still a couple more things that I'd like to cover for beginner level, but pretty soon we're going to start transitioning over to intermediate level stuff. So we definitely have a lot more to look forward to. Anyway, enough blabbing from me. I am DB, you are you. Let's keep rocking and let's keep learning. Thanks everybody. Peace.